All right. So sometimes you just jump and figure it out on the way down. And that's kind of become our mantra.
That's kind of what we did.
That's what we do. Yeah. We were on an Alaskan cruise late August. And I don't even know how it came up, but we're like, hey, let's do a podcast.
Yep.
So we did it. And we set out with a commitment. We'll talk about some of the changes along the way, but we set out with a commitment to do a weekend buzz. So what's going on in the area for the upcoming weekend, a weekly recap with what we got into along the way. And then our Hey Neighbor segment, which is an interviewing someone doing awesome things in the community. And here we are 52 weeks in.
Mm-hmm.
And we were racking our brains like, who is the guest that we're going to bring on for our 1-year anniversary episode? And we had some thoughts, which we won't share here. But ultimately, we settled on John Spina, the third member of our team that is, you don't see him, but he runs the show.
Feels good to finally be on this side of the table.
Does it, though?
It does.
Yeah.
I was really nervous the first time I had to talk into this microphone.
Yeah, we listened back to not all of our stuff, but I know you listened to probably more of our stuff than we did.
I've listened to probably 500 hours of your voice in the last 52 weeks.
I'm so sorry.
It is so funny that we listen to the podcast when they come out, a lot of times sitting on the front porch. And Jenna just said the other day, she goes, how can you listen to your own voice? I'm like, it was hard at first.
I just have a really big ego. Just love hearing me talk.
I know you do.
I think there's times when my girlfriend Amanda hears your voice more than mine in a day.
who I've never met. So it's got to be,
That's funny.
Got to be really awkward for her. But yeah, talk about your gig, Jay. So Vuew Media and a little bit about your background.
So I got into Vuew Media, started my own business about 5 years ago, had a background in cybersecurity and worked for a defense contractor in Rome out of college. Worked there for about 3 years and then left to start my own thing, probably at the worst possible time. It was just before COVID and the world was a mess. But yeah, 5 years later, doing a little bit of everything in digital marketing, from content to websites to audio to video to ads, just doing as much as I can.
And you run our social media. Another funny thing with the kids, the kids are like, Dad, you're on TikTok. I'm like, no, I'm not. They're like, yeah, no, you're on TikTok and Instagram. And yeah. So it's kind of funny that I'm like, Jay's way cooler than me. So he has the difficult task of making me look good online. So let's talk about some of our favorite moments, reflect on some of the most memorable interviews. So we've done 49, right?
Yeah,
interviews.
We've done 49 guest interviews and we've done 3 solo kind of unique segments.
Yeah.
This being the third.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Kyle, what was one of yours that stood out?
Oh my gosh. So it's hard for me because I really think that I enjoy interviewing people that I have personal connections with. It makes it more meaningful. And for me, a great one was Deacon Judd, because I met Deacon, I was his first grade teacher, and to see how well he has done. And he's a great athlete and he's just a great all around person. That was a great interview for me. Another one I really enjoyed was Brandon, B's Barbershop.
Yeah.
Like, I grew up with Brandon. We rode bikes together. We hung out together all the time. And a similar situation where he has built such a great business. And he's just a good human. To be able to talk to somebody that genuine.
Very honest.
And then somebody new that I met that I really enjoyed was Javon Pratt. He, again, is just a good person, not only wanting to run a successful burger joint, but just help people in general. Yeah. He really, really cares about people. Yeah,
there's certain moments that stand out for me. And one of them, when you talk about Brandon's, was when we asked how do people connect with you or find you. And he's like,
you're not.
They can try. It was like every business owner tries to promote the brand and the business, and B's like underground, which obviously is because he's very well established. But,
and then the last one that I want to mention too is Allie Tamburo, because that Main Street Mercantile and what she did with that building, and that was such a process for her that she undertook the whole thing herself, and her family helped her out, and she had a vision, and that was another really great one for me.
Yeah. And the OG, Melanie Welch, right?
Yep.
I mean, before this was a thing, those conversations were interesting. It's like, hey, do you want to jump on our podcast that we've never done before?
Yeah.
There's nothing to listen to. Most guests listen and they get an idea of the flow and the feel. And Melanie was like, sure, I'll do it. Like, no questions asked. And that's back when we were on Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
And she jumped on with us. What do you got, Jay? What stood out to you from the other side of the camera?
I would agree with all the ones Kelly listed. Obviously, I think those were all good interviews. For me, it's been more interesting to watch kind of the evolution of looking at someone through FaceTime or Zoom and now bringing people in here and really, getting a little deeper connection with them. What about you?
I love when I'm looking at the list of all the guests here, and when JP Kidwell, we asked him, what separates this area from others, and his answer just stuck in my head. He said, Utica people are just fiercely loyal, and they'll fight with you about why our stuff is better than other areas. And I thought that was a great answer. Yeah, I agree. Coming in studio has been a game changer. When we were doing these over Zoom, it gets a little difficult. The flow of the conversation, and sometimes there's glitches and
even body language too. Yeah, for sure.
So when we came into a physical studio, everything kind of changed. And I just think I'm kind of the opposite of you, Kel, where talking to people we know is great, but I've enjoyed meeting so many new people and just hearing their stories. And we'll get into it, I'm sure, but the kids is the piece of this that, frankly, when we started, we said we want to focus on educators and small business owners and people that are active with civic groups and charities and really just highlight these awesome people doing awesome things. And it changed really quick. It was, what episode was it? It was one
Kyle
of the
Meyer.
Yeah, it was
number 7.
Number 7. Okay, so it was our 7th one with Kyle Meyer, who we heard about this phenom quarterback, got a full ride to play at Dartmouth, and Ivy League school. And through friends of friends of friends, we're like, hey, how do we get in touch with this kid? And within like a day, we had him, on the phone, and he jumped on Zoom, and no prep work. I mean, this kid was like ready. He's going to Ivy League school, so obviously pretty smart. But anyway, that started it opened our eyes to just how, I don't know, I hate to use the word viral, but just, how videos with kids just took off. And,
it's their way of communicating.
Huge
for
audience
sure.
for it. And, when we first started this, Kelly's mom was like, what's a podcast? Like, how do I listen to it? Like, there's
how
so
do I
much.
podcast?
Yeah,
that's the question I get all the time from older people. How do I podcast? I'm like, oh my gosh.
So the long form stuff, is great, but the world, like it or not, today is in 30 to 60 second clips. And that's what John does such a great job at. So.
Well, thank you for that. And then I also wanted to add, it's kind of crazy how we went from, nothing to 7 weeks later getting Kyle Meyer on the show. And obviously just, a local kid playing football, going to a D1 school. But it kind of showed us like, okay, we can just reach out to people, and it's a couple messages away. It's, these 2 people in Frankfurt at their kitchen table want to interview me, and that's good enough.
Yeah, no doubt. And it's wild how quickly we went from having to ask people to recruit people to jump on the show to now, we're getting flooded with requests of people who want to be on, which is great, but it is a passion project and something that, we don't do full time. So, it's creating some challenges, but good problems to have.
So that's one of the challenges that we can talk about is deciding who our guests are. But what are some of the other challenges and obstacles that we encountered when we started this?
Technology.
Oh my gosh.
It never fails. So we started literally at the kitchen table, kitchen island, and we've got a dog
and kids,
and we've got a cat, and we've got kids, and we need 30 minutes. And inevitably, whatever 30 minutes we pick, neighbors mowing the lawn, kids are running in.
Even our parents stopping over, we would have to hang a sign like on the door, like recording. Sign, it was crazy.
So jumping in the studio has obviously helped that, but that's a challenge. The time commitment. It truly, when you say, oh, we're going to do this, 3 times a week, every week, it doesn't sound like a lot when you say it. But then it's like, holy shit, it's Tuesday again. Oh my gosh, we got to get this in. Oh my gosh, like next week we don't have a recording. We got to get someone on, and coordinating our schedules and other people's schedules has been a challenge.
And then just equipment too, sound quality. We sound so much better now than we did at the beginning. Like I said, we were recording over Zoom, and sometimes even the acoustics. Then we moved from the kitchen island to a small room in a basement. And that was not great.
Justin Smithson was our only live guest in the torture chamber in the basement. We have a room built.
For those of you that know the show You, that's what it reminded me of, is that room there that he locked her in. But
it wasn't all glass.
No, it was not. But it was square and it was small.
Hey, Justin, this is our brand new podcast. There's no episodes, but trust me, just come into my basement.
Yeah, just come down to our basement and we're going to lock the door. And the best part is like, yeah, right on. I'll be there.
Was that recorded on the phone? Like, what was that recording?
No, we recorded
over Zoom. We just used the audio.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it was so funny. And now we're actually in a studio at Scott's office above his State Farm agency. So it's definitely been an evolution for us for an interviewing space and sound quality. So that's definitely something that's improved.
So talk about highlights. What were some of the highlights from listeners or people in the community? I'll start. So I was at a Frankfurt Kiwanis meeting, and those that are familiar with the Kiwanis Club, unfortunately, the average age is like 74. And we had guests from the club in Rome, Lake Delta. And this lady was in her 70s, and we were talking about something, and I told her my name, and she's like, "Oh, you've got the podcast." She goes, "I listened to the, whatever episode it was," and I'm like, "No way!" So it was like one of those early moments where I'm like, "Okay, people are listening."
Yeah, for me, it was the waiter at Joey's 307 there.
Yeah,
yeah. The fact that oh my God, you guys are the Love Living Local people. I'm like, yes, we're those people. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a similar one a couple of weeks ago. I was playing a golf tournament with a friend of mine who's not on social media. He's really kind of off the grid, not paying attention to anything. And he was asking a little bit about what I've been doing, and I filled him in on some things. And he's like, "Oh yeah, you're working on that Living Local thing? Yeah, I've seen that." I'm like, "Where? How have you seen it?"
Yeah, he's not that underground.
So it is cool to see it coming to light.
Let's talk about where it's going. We really need to talk about where it's going because we're not even totally sure.
Where it's going. Well, I think that you talked about it a little bit already with the youth, that we realize that the high school kids or even college kids, like they love focusing on each other and things that are going on. And they love this form of communication, like podcasts and Instagram and TikTok and everything, that we really want to make it so that we can have ambassadors or kids from not each town, but a group of kids that would like to collaborate with us and help us out, because there are things going on that we don't know about, or we can't be in all 4 different, places at once, where if we had a team of youth. And I think it's important that the kids get involved because it gives them ownership and they get excited and then they share it. And that's how we grow. And that's how we can grow other people. I think that's the direction that we want to go in.
Yeah, really, time is all about leverage, right? And so there's only so many hours for so many people to do so many things. And, any media. So if you look at like your traditional WKTV, I mean, they've got beat reporters and people that cover specific things and areas, but so much of the news comes from the viewers, and really that's where, this thing's evolving to is we need people, ambassadors or whatever you want to call them, stationed in each community, each town, each school, whatever. They have their finger on the pulse of what's going on.
Or even to educate us at the same time too, like Trey Boy. The first time I saw his videos, I was like, these are amazing. So they are so much better with technology and video and everything that, they could educate us on how to be better.
Yeah. And listen, in the business world, you aren't who you think you are. You are what people see online, and that's Google reviews. That's your websites, the content that you're putting out. When people Google you, what do they see? Mm-hmm. And so I do believe that there's an opportunity for us to share this space with others who are trying to bolster their personal brand, because it's, I always use the co-op example. It's very expensive and difficult. Time, interest, and knowledge. You have to have all three to make something like this work. And so your small to mid-sized business or solopreneur, they don't have the thousands of dollars each month required to put together the content that they need online. And I think we can help those people with that in kind of a co-op fashion. So it's kind of what I miss.
I'll just add to Kelly talked a little bit about bringing on ambassadors, and that's kind of the vision I have. There's so many people out there that are already using their phones, are good at creating content, are showing up at, events, sporting events, other things going on in schools and small communities. And I think for us to grow and scale, we need to be able to leverage user-generated content and kind of come up with a way to bring other people on as ambassadors that have similar interests.
So there you go. There's a challenge. We need you to be part of the show. The next level, scaling of anything is basically replacing yourself, right? So we've done a year with I don't want to say just us, because we have had some solid collaborations and, just recently Kelly mentioned Trey Boy and the Eat Local guys and what they're doing. And so
Tiffany, we collaborated with her, and who's the guy in Little Falls?
Dave Warner. Yeah. And really that's what the Referrals Done Right book is all about. It's about relationship marketing and this connection economy. And frankly, that's why this podcast started, right? Is I wanted to give all the people that we know a platform and an opportunity to shine. And so, but now it's time to expand and get, there's only so many things we can do each week. So I think getting the kids involved, it would be great from each community, each town, each school.
For sure. And I think it's helped us as far as like when looking at my notes and stuff and co-hosting, and we now have something exciting to talk about, like at home over dinner. Like, what are we going to do this weekend? Like looking for events that are going to happen. Like we are the type of people that we always need a plan. Scott will always look at me and go, what's our plan? And there's times I don't have a plan, and it drives me crazy that he asks me that every day. So
we don't sit well.
No, we don't. We don't sit well. We don't do nothing well. That it's sort of given us, I don't know how to say it, like a purpose.
More
like
stuff to do.
More stuff to do.
Well, listen, we're entering a new season in our life.
Yep.
Right? I mean, we've got one in college. We've got another one that's about to go to college. And, you look 5 years in the future and you're like, all right, what's next?
And what's great is we're passing on to our kids the shop local, the small businesses. Like they know that we're not going to go out to eat to a chain restaurant. That's just not us. That's not what we want to do. And so it's fun to see them trying out different places and wanting to go to smaller businesses rather than.
It's cool to have the kids be a part of it. They're, in the pictures, and they take pictures for us when they do different things, and bringing them on, and forcing them out of their comfort zone, to do some different things. So.
What is the reception from the kids been? Do they think their parents are nuts, or?
Well, they do. They know we're nuts. Yeah.
It's kind of funny because this tomato pie thing was a good example, right? So we just did the tomato pie taste test with the kids and their friends, and the kids were jacked up about it.
And so Connor, it was too funny. Like at first we had talked about each of our kids could invite 3 or 4 friends. And Connor's like, Mom, I can't just do 3 or 4. Like they're all jacked up about it. Like I need to be able to invite them all. And so I was like, well, that's awesome if they all want to be a part of it. And they were, chiming in. He started this group thread and they were all over it, like super excited.
When you talk to high school kids and you ask them what they want to do, what do you think the number one answer is nowadays?
Create content.
They all want to be content creators.
They all want to be TikTok superstars.
It's where the world's going. It's where the world is. So.
And Jenna, at first, Jenna was a little, the pictures and stuff, but now she's really embraced it. Like
so that's become an ongoing thing with our daughter.
So if you look at the pictures.
We try to get the worst. I think Jay feels bad about it, but we try to get the worst pictures of our daughter.
But no, she does it on purpose now, that we will be standing in front of a restaurant and we'll be like, all right, take a picture. And she will make the craziest face.
Yeah.
It's just her thing.
And she knows we're going to post it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And I think expanding on the tomato pie taste test. There's a lot more content like that I think we can do, and looking forward to coming up with some new ideas going into the second year. I think, anything featuring local food. I'd like to do some stuff up in the Adirondacks and Old Forge. Yeah. Stuff that's just more consumable content that isn't so much just sit down interview style.
Yep.
It's kind of people out there doing the things that, they love in the area and making things that people want to watch.
Even experiences too, Jay. That would be a good thing to pick certain people to go do certain things, whether it's horseback riding or hike a mountain, and then give their perspective on it, or even pictures. That's
live video.
Yeah.
Even imagine we go to Old Forge for the day and we're just walking around, downtown Old Forge, mic'd up, talking to people on the street, seeing what they're doing, talking to people that are hiking. There's just a lot of content to be created out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could be a whole thing. That's for sure. Let's talk about us as a couple.
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you talk about that.
Why?
I don't know.
So it's kind of funny. Scott and I are very good at staying in our lane. We both have roles and we're both in charge of certain things. Like, obviously, I'm more in charge at home with, cooking and schedules and the kids.
Raising the kids.
Yeah,
yes.
Pretty much. And so Scott has, his businesses that he's running too. And it's kind of funny that we're a partnership with this. There's certain things that he takes more of a lead on, whereas I definitely try to do all the research as far as what's going on in the upcoming weekend and stuff like that. And then I brief him on it. But, as far as the interviews and the Hey Neighbors, Scott has more of those connections, with people and businesses. And so I think it's nice that we sort of have our roles in this and we share the responsibility.
We said for years, so Kelly's was a school teacher. You're a teacher by nature. And I've got the business. I've always been in sales, but we always said we could never work together.
Yeah.
We always kept everything very separate. And so I don't know. I wasn't quite sure, going into this, but here we are.
Yeah.
Still married, still going.
You can be my boss here. I'm okay with that.
I'm not anyone's boss. I'm really good at delegating. That's so when you say stay in my lane, I do two things and I just delegate everything else. So I don't want to leave my lane.
Kelly, how is your view on, I guess, what you thought this was going to be versus what it's turned into, Ben? I know Scott's more familiar with doing this kind of stuff all the time, and he kind of brought you into it.
I know. I had no idea.
Have you enjoyed it to this point?
I have enjoyed it. I've gotten a lot more comfortable with it. At first, I was very uncomfortable with being on camera and hearing my voice and nervous that I wouldn't know what to say or I would say the wrong thing. And I think it's just the authenticity of it, of just being able to sit down and have a conversation and be comfortable with it, that I definitely did not think that it was going to grow as quickly as it has. Like you had said, we have a ton of people reaching out to us. I have people that invite us to events and they want us to go, like that Rome Center.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, we still have an invite to that historical building that's out in Rome. I think it's out in Rome or Westmoreland, that I had no idea that it was going to grow as quickly as it has. And I've gotten a lot more comfortable with it because, like Scott says, Scott's in front of a camera all the time. He talks all the time. He's great at motivational speaking and his TED Talk. And for me, I was always in front of kids. And for me, that was comfortable because I'm the adult. They're the kids. It was a comfort thing for me. But being in front of peers and other people that are listening to me that are the same age as me was definitely uncomfortable at the beginning, but I feel like I've gotten a little bit better at it.
You're killing it.
Oh my God, shut up.
And Jay's got software to take all of our ums and ahs and pauses out. So he, again, makes us sound better than we really are.
That's another thing that I noticed the first time that I listened to myself was I said
Everybody notices that when you're on camera.
Yeah.
Not you, but when they're on camera. So what's your perspective, Jay? From behind the camera with evolution?
I think, there's so many things I could say. I could take this a bunch of different ways, but I think we've found our rhythm and it's nice to see us continually evolving and getting better. Some of the recent interviews have been really good. Another one that stands out I didn't really talk about were the Eat Local guys.
Yeah.
And just, it's been awesome to mix with different people that, we probably otherwise wouldn't be talking to, and
for sure
to give a platform to people who deserve it.
Yeah, no doubt. Again, looking at the list, Lindsay Bissell from Heidelberg, she was fantastic. That she reached out. I had never met her, and then we get, I don't want to say roped into things, but I'm looking at the list and it's like, okay, well, we ended up at the St. Francis soiree, right? And we're in the Mohawk Valley Community College softball golf outing this weekend. And, so we're networking and getting involved with local projects and people in ways that we wouldn't have otherwise, which is cool.
Yep. And then I think we've made it a lot easier too with the episodes. At first we were doing the home field advantage. We've had a couple people ask if we're going to do that again this year. Like, I'm not sure if we're going to do that, but condensing and putting the weekend buzz and the recap into one episode, I feel like has helped a ton. It's got to be helpful for you, Jay, not to have another piece of something to edit or for us to fit it in our schedule at the beginning of the week. And so it's sort of trying to find out how to make this work, but also not make it overwhelming to the point where then it's not authentic and, fun. It's definitely fun.
Yeah, no doubt. And the saying "no good deed goes unpunished." If you haven't been invited by us, that's not personal. It's like sometimes you get the ongoing joke is with Steve McMurray though. That, Steve's one of our best friends. And
Stevie is going to be a guest.
And we had his son Jack on the podcast, and I had his wife write an endorsement for my book, which the publisher put on the back cover. And we're just leaving Steve in the dark, which is kind of funny. But he's coming on in November, so we got that.
Highly anticipated.
It's highly anticipated. Yes. Yeah. Any funny moments or aha moments or wow moments that stand out as you look at the past year? I think one of the coolest ones for me was Noah Dinerstein. Live Noah was the first one to come in he had his guitar in the studio and played a song. And I stand by that. It's a really good song.
Yeah.
If you go back and listen to that one. Yeah. So it was cool to have that. A live performance.
That was really cool. Another funny one was when Trey Boy pulled out the blackjack set.
Yeah.
Did not see that coming.
Yeah. He brought in a bag. We didn't know what was in it. And he's like, he used to be a blackjack dealer at the casino, and he dealt some blackjack, and I wasn't sure where he was going with it. He just wanted to be different and funny, which Jay cut it from the episode, but we have video footage of it.
It didn't fit into the audio version of the podcast, but I'm still going to release some behind the scenes video of that at some point.
All right.
And that's another thing now that we have a bank of, 52 weeks of episodes, I'm going to go back and kind of cut some highlights from different episodes and not make it so linear. Like, here's the guest of the week. All you're going to see is them. I'm going to try to find opportunities to, revisit past stuff and put videos and content out. Yeah.
I mean, there's so much, and it's hard to just pick, the best minute here, best minute there. And then, so, I mean, the bank of content we have is crazy after a year.
Yeah. And I would say that's one thing that's kind of challenging is we have a hyper local focus, but we also kind of have a broad range of people we bring on and topics we cover. So it's like, not always the best for social media algorithms to just kind of throw content from anywhere and everywhere. That's right. The only similarity is this person's from an area. So finding ways to bring out the best of all the different types of stuff we're recording.
Well, and look, let's be honest. We don't talk politics, and we stay away from hot issues, and that's what sells, I mean, that's why the old mantra in the news is if it bleeds, it leads. Like they start with the scariest, worst possible story because that's what gets everyone fired up and that's what keeps people watching. And we don't do that, which is a positive. But to Jay's point, it doesn't perform well. It's sad to say, but like the positive stuff just doesn't perform as well.
And I don't think it's not always that black and white. I think there are definitely opportunities for the positive stuff to perform well. And I think we have a bunch of opportunities that traditional news outlets don't have, just in the types of content we could put out. And we don't have to be super polished or professional on everything. There are certain things that a news network just isn't going to air. But, we could send a kid to a high school football game, mic'd up, talking to people in the crowd, and we could do that. So I think although we're not doing like the shock and awe, breaking news type stuff, there's still a lane for us to create really good stuff that could be seen by a lot of people.
One of the funniest moments for me was when Christina Sprague came in. She's like, "Oh, I've met you guys before." I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "Yeah, you guys used to have a place up at Hinckley, right?" And I'm like, "Oh God." So it's like, you don't realize that you've had encounters with certain people. And I'm like, oh boy, and then to find out.
No video footage from our summers at Hinckley Lake.
From the camp at Hinckley. But yeah, that was a funny moment for me. I definitely blushed and got a little.
I forget. This is going to sound funny, but I'll just say it. Like, I forget that we do this, right? And not that what I'm driving at is I'll talk to people who know things about us, and I'm like, how do you know that? And they're like, you talked about it on the podcast. I'm like, oh, that's right. We share our entire life on the podcast. Like, but I forget, and so I'll run it. Like, Joe Aiello will text me, something about, whatever. I'm like, how'd you know that? He's like, dude, you talked about it on the podcast.
So funny.
You forget that we do this.
It is funny though, because sometimes you think, there are moments like, who cares? Does anyone care what we have to say? Who's listening to this? And then I'll hear randomly from somebody like, oh, hey, I heard that on the podcast the other day.
Yeah.
What's going to be on this week? And I'm like, people are paying attention.
For sure. So final thoughts. We're at time here. 1 year in. What didn't we cover? Takeaways?
I don't know. I think we did a pretty good job. I think we're keeping true to our mission, which is important to me. I know that we had a couple of conversations, and whether or not we want to make it, not money making, but that's not what we set out to do. We set out to make an authentic, genuine podcast to help people. And I think that we need to keep that in our vision.
DNA.
For sure.
Yeah. Says the woman who doesn't pay for it. That's something that, comes up. It's come up more than once where people are like, how do you make money doing this? It's like, no, we actually lose money.
Well, I'm not saying we have to lose money. I'm just saying that, okay.
Yeah. So there's a cost to everything. Yeah, I don't know. It's a fine line, right? How do you, we kind of hung our hats on, we don't run ads and we don't talk politics and, but then how do you monetize it to the point where at least it's paying for itself?
Right.
Right. And frankly, look, I'm in the business world. I will pay for value. And if we've created the platform, and if we give small business owners, people that are promoting things, people that want to build their brand, the platform, and it adds value and generates revenue in their world, they're willing to pay for that. So yeah, I don't know where we
That's what we're struggling with right now.
It's kind of like we're at a crossroad with, okay, now what? And it's a good moment in time, a year in, to kind of pause and reflect and say, all right, where are we going with this?
Yeah, and to add a little bit more to my vision, obviously the podcast stuff isn't going to change, but now we have the website, lovelivinglocal315.com, where we're going to be housing events and writing stories on things happening locally. And my vision for that is to become, the all-in-one place to go for anything local online. So whether it's events, it's listings, I have a vision for kind of a creative and small business directory that we'd like to incorporate. And maybe that's not directly monetizable for us, but I think there is a framework there that, can be used all over the place. And that's kind of the way I'm thinking about scaling this.
Yeah. It's almost like a local Angie's List, right? Where
Yellow Pages.
Yeah.
A phone book.
Google. But no, I mean, it just, if you need a certain product or service, you can go to our website and we'll have a directory of people that offer that, who may not be found otherwise. If you're looking for something to do this weekend, you can go there and figure out what's going on this weekend.
Or even far enough in advance. I know we've talked about this before too, that a lot of times we'll talk about things coming up in the weekend and they're sold out already. So being able to have a calendar, like you said, Jay, of, the month in advance to be able to look ahead and plan ahead if you want to do so.
Yeah, and then in terms of local products and shopping, you're seeing more and more of these pop-up type events at the marina and all sorts of events like that, where there are all these people making things out of their homes, have small operations they're selling online on a Shopify store, Etsy, right on Facebook, whatever. I'd like to be able to kind of aggregate all those products and have a marketplace where if you want to know your money is staying local, you can go any of these products you're buying here, putting money in the pocket of somebody, in your proximity.
So if you have an event, if you have a business, we've had people nominate other people, go to the website, lovelivinglocal315.com, and there's a form. Where is it?
There's a button in the top right corner to submit an event or submit. There's also a general contact form where you can submit anything you want.
Be on. So, ambassadors, if you've got a kid in high school or a grandkid or a nephew or a friend, and that person wants to share with us the goings on and the school and the community, really that's our next step, is to get the whack pack, if you will, assembled.
It doesn't even have to be a kid. I mean, if you're a photographer, videographer,
even a parent that's attending the, sporting events and stuff, for sure.
And it could even be you're out for a weekend in Old Forge or wherever, you took some awesome pictures or videos and, we have an audience now, you want to share and collaborate with us, we'll post it and credit it to you. Mm-hmm. So just cross-pollination and trying to get good content in a mutually beneficial way.
Yeah, it takes a village, right? It takes a community. No different here. The pay is awful, but if you're looking to work for free, we are willing to hire you and share your information and insight and be part of this passion project that we started a year ago now.
Well, the pay could be 10,000 people that weren't going to see your stuff otherwise.
Exactly.
Jay always has a counterpoint,
resume builder
to all my stuff. That's why we work so well together. All right, so good stuff.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate you letting me come on this side of the table today.
This will be the last time Jay's ever on the mic with us. So this is historic. First and last appearance, John Spina, 30 years old today. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Love Living Local. As you know, we do not run ads. Our only mission is to shine a spotlight on amazing people doing amazing things here in our local community. If you'd like to support us with this mission, we have 3 ways you can help. You can share our content on social, subscribe or follow the show on your favorite podcast platform, and you can visit our lovelivinglocal315.com website to stay up to date with everything happening in Central New York.